I have to tell you guys, there's nothing I like doing more than rip-off lists. And the reason why is because when you find these movies, you never know what you're going to get. It's such a strange mixed bag that some of times you're going to find some pretty great work of art, and other times you're going to find complete and total garbage. And we have such a simple formula as a bunch of armed guys walking through the woods being chased by an alien, like say, in the movie, I don't know, Predator. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of rip-offs, and today we're checking out 10 of those, and we're going to see how silly this can get. Number 10. I'm going to start off with Predator World from 2018, which was, I guess, apparently also called Aliens vs. Titanic, and also Aliens vs. College Girls. It's a ship called the Titan 1C. Get it? And this was directed by Jeff Leroy, who had also made the movie Unseen Evil 2, which very easily could have been on this list, but I put this one on here because it's called Predator World, and this is the box art, and it was timed up to be released in the same week as The Predator in the theaters, hoping that people would get the two confused. Brie Olson is on the ship, and it's New Year's 2140, and yeah, of course, Sean C. Phillips is here, and naturally, they crash. There's these extremely sophisticated creatures after them that jump down their throats and blow them up using Snapchat filters, and they crash land on an alien world, including an actress named Jin N. Tonic, but the little creatures are there too, and they can get inside dead bodies, and there's quite a bit of time spent on how horny this one character is, to the point that it's like his defining character arc. The creatures watch them with a familiar looking vision styling, and there's some comedy attempts.
Oh my god, they killed Kenny!
The creatures change form, and they're terrible CGI, and then occasionally are a pretty fun practical suit. And yeah, this plot is not really similar to Predator. It's not really a Predator ripoff. I mean, the monsters don't really look very similar, and not only do they not look similar to the Predator, but they don't look similar to the way they're depicted on the cover of the freaking movie. But yeah, this plot has nothing to do with Predator, but it's on this list because of the marketing of it. They build it as a ripoff on an asylum-like level. The tagline is even, "Let the hunt begin," but there's not really a hunt in the movie. I mean, I guess there sort of is, but no more so than monsters are hunting humans in basically any alien-based horror movie. It even dips into Thing ripoff territory with a whole "who is actually infected with the aliens that can look like us" thing, and it takes more plot elements from that than it does Predator, and it's not great, but you know, it's not without its charms. Number 9. Back in 1996, we had DNA, directed by William Mesa, who only directed a couple of things, but then went on to a long-running career in visual effects, where he won several awards. And this one has the TV Crow, the American Iron Chef Chairman, and Das Boot! And Ash here is a doctor who is convinced to head into the jungle to find this rare beetle they want an enzyme from. They discover a lost cave, find the beetles, and Carl betrays them. He then finds this old fossil in the jungle of an unknown creature that they call Balakai. 2 years later, we see Ash is still alive with a new do, and there's been a series of unusual murders happening in the jungle that involve ripping out of people's spines that the villagers say is the work of Balakai. To throw in a little extra ripoff, there's a cigarette-smoking computer guy that might as well just tell you to hold on to your butts, and a CIA agent teams up with Ash to track down Carl, and the creature finally starts attacking, and it uses a very familiar-looking heat vision. And the creature suit was designed by KNB, and sorta looks like the Xenomorph design, but also kinda looks like the original Predator suit that had Jean-Claude Van Damme inside before they changed it mid-filming. Later scenes include hiding from its heat vision in the mud, and the creature uses cloaking skills to appear invisible, and our hero going shirtless and painting himself up for a battle, attacking it with a log, jumping off a cliff into water below, although the biggest difference between this movie and Predator is that there's a bunch of really awkward CGI shots of the monster, which is weird because they have a pretty decent monster suit. Just use that. It is pretty fun though, even though it never really rises anywhere above straight-to-video 90s Predator knockoff. Number 8. I usually like to include an international ripoff when I can, so we're going with Bangus from 1996, which was from the Philippines. And there's this squad of military guys, including this guy who looks like some sort of sexual tyrannosaurus, and they get enlisted by an old friend to go on a mission together. So they go in guns blazing, and they're a wacky assortment of guys, although it's a little hard to peg down their personalities without subtitles and not being able to speak Tagalog, and they complete their mission but end up with one hostage, a young woman. But, as expected, there's something out there in the woods causing unexpected problems. It hunts them down with thermal vision, and why am I explaining the plot? This is just Predator. I don't even need subs because I knew what was going on because I had already seen that movie. It's basically just a Filipino remake, note for note, except when our boy finally does show up, this is what he looks like. So, yeah, Predator. You've even got this sort of Billy character who stays behind to fight, although this creature buries under the ground like a graboid instead of being invisible, and it has rockets, I guess, to be able to fly in, but it's pretty entertaining for a cheapo knockoff and has a cool monster suit, and seriously, look at this creature without the mask. Like, they were not even trying to hide their influences here. It's a pretty solidly good time, even if it's a bit, well, familiar, like really familiar, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito in Twins familiar. Like, they're twins, but oh my gosh, they also look completely different. But there are twins, I guess. Number 7. Next up is a little something called Man vs. from 2015, and this one has a reality TV show with a Survivor Man kind of thing. Our lead is a guy named Doug, the star of the show, and he's played by Chris Diamantopoulos, and he's not familiar to me, so I checked his IMDb, and this guy is basically a voice in like every cartoon and video game imaginable. The show's shtick is that they take Doug and drop him off somewhere with some supplies and a camera, and he has to get out by himself and survive, but his first night there, he hears a rather loud crashing sound. He goes to investigate, finding a hole in the tree line, dead fish, and it very quickly becomes apparent that he's being watched. Pretty soon, weird stuff is starting to happen, but you think this guy's just on the hunt, but nope, he's playing freaking chess too! The similarities start to come into play as it likes to skin things and makes a really familiar sound. But then, here's the kicker, the creature appears to be invisible. And that kicks off the final act that they promise in the title, and this one takes a while to get to the ripoff territory, but once it gets there, it goes all in. And it's not bad. It's sort of a one-man show, but Diamantopoulos does a solid job, and I mean, come on, when he kills people, he hangs them upside down and skins others. He looks like this though, which is its own thing, even if it's some pretty crappy CG. But I enjoyed this. It's not essential and it's absolutely a knockoff, but it's fairly cool and throws a nice twist in the final moment, even if it sort of invalidates everything that had come before it. Number 6. Heading back to 2001, it's not just a soft drink, it's also a Predator knockoff, and it's Code Red, the Rubicon Conspiracy, which was actually a TV movie made for UPN that has a bunch of mercenaries getting picked off in the jungles in a scene that's actually very reminiscent of that one bit from Aliens with the bio readouts of the soldiers shutting off with their cameras. The military seek out Lieutenant Doyle to go in the aftermath to find his brother, while also helping to reset the Rubicon station, which will nuclear detonate in 20 hours. and they assemble the usual gang of oddballs and misfits to head into the jungle, and pretty soon they're finding corpses looking kinda skinned and hung up on display, and one of the squad is a burly guy who doesn't say much, which makes one of the other squatters nervous, so he talks to him a lot, and soon they're attacked. They've got some very Aliens-ish motion tracker, but here's the kicker. The Predator thing isn't what's killing people. It's these tentacle monsters that drain people dry, and Laser Blast Boy here is killing them. Turns out that the Predator guy isn't an enemy after all. It isn't killing anyone, so this is more of an Aliens versus Predator than anything, just a few years before that actually made it to the screen. Our good guy creature has an armor that's derivative, including a laser cannon and wrist readout, but its face is more humanoid and honestly more Grig or Jerry from Enemy Mine, and it's not bad. It's not great, and I wish that there was a little more of any of the creatures on screen for the whole middle of the movie. I mean, you have this cool practical suit with this guy here, might as well take advantage of it, but there's worse ways to spend 90 minutes. Number 5. Next up is a movie that I wouldn't have guessed would be on this list based on the title, and it's 2004's Skeleton Man, which sounds like a different type of movie altogether. And speaking of different type of movies, when this was released in Germany, they billed it as a comedy, so I guess we know what we're in for. It starts with an archaeological dig attacked by the Skeleton Man, a guy in a black coat, skeleton mask, with an axe. He clearly isn't all bone though, since we see his wrists here, so I assume this is just a guy in a suit. Like I realize he's a guy in a suit for real. I mean in terms of the actual movie. We've then got a military group, and they're attacked by Skelly, who can appear out of nowhere on horseback, and there's a rescue team led by Grant, along with Johnny Rico, while SM lays waste to a whole base. And you know, I think he's supposed to be supernatural, which is why it's weird that he's just like in some Spirit Halloween cape that's all satiny. The team, waits until they're like in the middle of the woods to introduce themselves to each other. Like, maybe you could have done this before going on your excursion together. And Rooker was nice enough to make sure to only hire from that all very real hot girl military squad roster. Like I know that there are hot girls in the military, but like, how is it that all the girls you have on board are hot girls? They run into a random blind native, played by an Italian guy, and he tells the story of a warrior gone mad, named, well, Cottonmouth Joe. But where did he come from? Where did he go? And yeah, the Skeleton Man just randomly keeps showing up to kill some people at random, and it's pretty silly because there's just no way to see this outfit and not giggle a little. It knows what it's knocking off, and just swaps out teleportation for invisibility, but I guess it still skins its victims and keeps them as trophies, and you know, part of me wishes this was goofier. If it's going to be billed as a comedy of Ed Wood proportions, it should deliver, and it's honestly a standard sci-fi movie kind of bad, although I admit that I chuckled every time that skeleton showed up with his fresh out of the bag cape and obvious mask. Number 4. How about 1996's Star Hunter, which gives itself away in the opening crawl as they talk about the Star Hunters, which are predators that hunt their game as their sport, and now they're headed to Earth. This was partly directed by Fred Olen Ray, which means it's gonna be some silly schlock, and starts with a different kind of clone. And on Earth, there's a football team that includes Scott Farkas, and their coach is Ray regular Stella Stevens. And their bus breaks down, and then, just for the hell of it, they throw in this Spock-Vulcan mixture, and then Peter freaking Vincent rolls in with some sunglasses that are slightly higher grade from the ones that we're about to see coming up in this movie called Phobe. Roddy is actually one of the hunters in disguise, and the four-head alien takes over Cooper, and the Star Hunter itself definitely has a very Predator-looking helmet going on, and he begins to hunt the crew, keeping them penned in with an invisible force field. Of course, the hunters collect their victims' heads as trophies, but the teens are in trouble because they're up against the ultimate predators, who I guess can't locate a person sitting 2 feet away. And at one point, one of the guys convinces the others to take their shirts off because I guess it'll confuse its senses. Sure, movie, that's why you're having them do that. Because, oh yes, I forgot to mention, the Star Hunters are blind. The Super Hunters are blind and can't find 3 people in the same room as it, so I'm not exactly sure how they're referred to as Super Hunters. You may also notice that the hunter looks a little familiar, and that's because it's actually just the suit for Sauron from the Masters of the Universe movie with some minor alterations made to it. But, you know, if you're familiar with Ray's work, this is actually a bit duller and less wacky than some of the others. I think it's because it appears as if what happened was that Cole S. McKay made the bulk of the film but did not finish, so Ray stepped in and sunk more money into it, reshot about 1/3 of the film in order to get it ready for release. Number 3. Heading back now to 1995 with Phobe, the Xenophobic Experiments. And this one was apparently made for around $250 Canadian. And there's some sort of space mercenary guy with a pretty spectacular hairdo. And he gets convinced to hunt down something called a phobe. And communication appears different on this planet.
Good, you're here. Nice to see you again, Sergeant. Yeah, I'm sure you are.
I'm thinking the first guy was supposed to say, "I'm glad to see you again," but tripped up the line, but then the second guy just stuck to the script instead of rolling with it.
Good, you're here. Nice to see you again, Sergeant. Yeah, I'm sure you are.
They track the phobe to Earth where it hatches and starts to stalk some people, and it has thermal vision, of course, and Dap shows up to help fight it, and everyone's hairstyles in this movie are like some weird time capsule, and the sergeant helps a local girl survive, and she teaches him to dance to the sounds of this band with this guy with this hair and this guy with a piano hat. And yeah, it also feels a bit like Terminator, all things considered, and Dap has these yellow glowing eyes that he disguises by wearing these glasses. Remember, I mentioned that there would be sunglasses coming up. Here they are. I think that these are just a piece of plastic wrapped around his head. But oh my god, he has a lightsaber, and it's like, go ahead and sue me, all of you movies. We only have $250, so you're not gonna get anything, I guess. And yeah, you're gonna hate me for recommending this, but there's a distinct charm about it. It's 100% a backyard effort and costs $250 and feels like it, but they made that $250 go far, and the effects have this sort of low-tech flair about them that I appreciated. So just know that I'm actually giving this my thumbs up, but only to those of you that like their trash. Like, I feel like their motion tracker is just an old laser tag toy. So if that sentence appeals to you, then so will this. And I mean, just wait until the whole alien takes his helmet off scene. And then there's a twist that features this guy who is just barely holding back a laugh through all of his lines. Number 2. There's also 2004's Alien Lockdown, but was also known as Creature, but also, tellingly, Predator Man, which has this for a cover, which makes this appear to be a little closer to being an Alien ripoff, and starts with a stone falling from the sky, which then becomes lost for thousands of years. It's discovered in modern times, and there's also a team of scientists that have created a perfect weapon creature. And it gets loose, of course, because the second someone in a movie says perfect weapons, it's a guarantee that that thing is getting out. Kreese is here, and he sends in a team led by Talon here, and it's looking a lot like Aliens, and they find a bunch of dead bodies and John Savage, but they're attacked pretty immediately by the creature, which has a back that looks pretty alien. So do I have this in the wrong spot? Should I have reserved this for that Alien ripoff video? It then turns into a wandering around hallways kind of movie, with the creature occasionally popping out to pick someone off, again like Alien, but then the reason reveals itself, coincidentally, when the creature does. This is its face. It's like someone went Predator Control C, Alien Lockdown Control V. For real, it was like they just sat back and said, let's remake Aliens, and someone else was all like, you're gonna get sued, and they were like, no, we'll put the Predator in it. And then the first person was all like, okay, but not too similar to the Predator. But by that point, they had stopped listening. And overall, it's passable, but pretty dull. It's about as by the numbers as these things get, with not much new or interesting to offer, but it's not boring. And oh, come on, how did someone sit down, design this creature, and not think to yourself, you know, maybe I should try to make it look a little less like a very popular Stan Winston design? Number 1. Our final stop on this journey is 1988's Robo War, and I'm very excited about this one because it's directed by Vincent Dawn, which is a pseudonym for Bruno Mattei, director of ripoff alum films Cruel Jaws and Shocking Dark, and those were so magical that this is bound to be a classic, especially because it's written by Troll 2's Claudio Fragasso along with his wife and writing partner Rosella Drudi. When the military loses control of a test subject, they send in a specialized team, and like Predator, the guy that enlists them is covering up the real reason for doing so. OG Captain America is here in this stunning turquoise half-shirt ensemble. They take lines straight from Predator.
What do you mean we? I'm going in with you, Dutch.
What's this we? Well, I'm coming with you.
They enter the jungle and have a strong, silent type like Billy with them, and their target guts his victims, of course. But it's not an alien and more a cyborg, although it does watch them in state-of-the-art thermal vision. But I'm surprised that this high-tech technological warrior has such low res for its imaging and uses thermal imaging in broad daylight. When they see it,
It's you!
like, take a look at this equipment. This is the best. Of course, they end up with a single woman in tow, TV's Catherine Hickland, and then just follow the plot of Predator, like beat for beat, with them taking out a group of gorillas. And remember that scene in the actual film where Arnold throws a knife at a guy and then tells him to
Stick around.
This movie has
Don't move.
doesn't quite work the same way. The Robo Soldier attacks, all the while being accompanied by this weird chatter.
On target, free seed.
And one thing that the original version was missing was odd metal tunes. There's more duplication.
What happened? I saw it. You saw what? I saw it. No blood, no bodies. We hit nothing.
Corey, I saw it.
What did you see?
Well, I saw some kind of a strange creature.
There's no blood. There's no body. There's no traces at all. We didn't hit a damn thing!
There's some unique quirks like this Dr. Octopus tentacle, but then more stolen dialogue.
He's killing us one at a time.
Like a hunter.
He's picking us off, one by one, like a hunter.
And as they head into final battle, Huang, the quiet guy, stays behind to fight and is immediately killed. There's even a bit of RoboCop mixed in around the ending, but it's right back to Predator with the whole jumping off of a waterfall to escape routine. And man, do I love this. I love the Matei knockoffs the best, I think, because they stick to the original, but it's like an 8-year-old wrote down what they remembered about it, and then someone made that movie. And oh yeah, Hicklin's character is named Virgin. So there you have it, 10 movies that rip off Predator in one way or another, whether it be basically just reproducing the plot identically, or just, calling it Predator something and trying to trick people into renting it. But there you go. I actually really enjoyed most of these. I would watch pretty much any of these again. There was only one or two I thought that were kind of blah. Like Skeleton Man sticks out to me as being like, whatever. But for the most part, these were all a lot of fun. If you've enjoyed these, and if you have seen some of these or want to see some of these, let me know down below. Let me know which of these looks like your favorite. Which one would you most want to see that you haven't already seen? Put that down below in the comments. I want to hear that. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button. If you like what you see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button. And if you think about it, check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/movietimelines. I certainly would appreciate that. These guys are my patrons, and I thank them. They are all very awesome for helping to support this, and you guys can as well. But otherwise, just keep on watching the videos, and I'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks a lot, guys, and bye-bye.